All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for getting here. Apparently, I'm getting annotated as we go. We discovered this as we jumped in, so we don't actually know how it's happening, but it's happening and it's pretty cool. So hopefully, if you don't understand what I'm saying, it's going to be written there below for you, and it's pretty accurate, so that's good. For those who are unfamiliar, well, what we're going to be talking about today is assessments that matter beyond pre-screening. Okay, so we're going to touch on that a little bit as well, but assessments that matter beyond pre-screening. If you're unfamiliar with me or who I'm Travis from Fitness Education Online. We are one of the leaders in online fitness CEC courses, formerly with Fitness Australia, now Oz Active, and also approved internationally with a bunch of different providers as well. We're up to about 40 something courses, and I sort of run my hand over all of them. I'm sort of the one that everyone consults with. So yeah, pretty in depth with that. We've been around for a few years. Large fitness online community there with our Facebook group. If you're not there already, if you are in the Facebook group, throw it in the chat and like, hey, yeah, I'm in the Facebook group. It's awesome. Hopefully, we try to provide lots of value in there and try to help a lot of people out. If you're familiar with me, say hello as well, by the way. If you have questions, if you have a proper question throughout the presentation, throw it in the Q&A section. So you'll notice in the webinar, there's a chat and then there's a Q&A section. So if you've got a proper question, throw it in the Q&A section. If you're just participating because I'm asking something, I'm saying, hey, have you heard of us? Put it in the chat. If that makes sense, a little bit of a distinction there. Now, the person who's with me today, some of you may be familiar with, you may not be familiar with, but that's okay. His name is John Polly, otherwise known as JP. I believe that, as we were chatting before, JP is the only known existence for this man. He has done a few courses with us. Currently, there are 3, I believe, that are approved with Oz Active, myofascial training, games-based stuff, as well as the one we're going to be touching on some of the content from today, which is a recovery-based training course, which has just launched. And then we've got 2 mobility ones due out in the near future. Has won New Zealand Educator of the Year a couple of years ago now, I think 2019. Has been around the traps on the presenting fields for a while. All around great guy, and I'm very happy to be able to present with him here today with this topic. Yeah, and also on top of that, it's if you're familiar with us, it's Fitness Education Online. We do have a podcast, the Fitness Education Online podcast. This is going to be similar to some of the content we've spoken about there on the Bro Science series. So if you want to dive into it again further, jump on there, and that's with me, my brother, and JP, that particular episode. But I am going to throw to JP. Thanks for being here, buddy. A really great pleasure for me to be able to present with you.
Well, thank you, Travis. I almost feel like I don't introduce myself now, but first of all, I would just want to say, hey, welcome everyone. I've got the chat box open. I'm loving that everyone's saying hi and where you're from, because that's really, really good. Hi, I'm JP. I'm in Perth right now, just to let you know that part. So thank you for doing that. Any stuff that you want to say along the way, whack it in the chat box. It's really, really cool. As Travis said, I'm very lucky to have been presenting in the industry for about a decade or so now. And I had the privilege, even though I live in Perth in Western Australia, I had the privilege of winning Educator of the Year in New Zealand, which is not an easy feat from Perth in Western Australia. So I spent a lot of time in New Zealand that year. So I just want to kind of give you an idea of my background. I didn't change tack into this industry until I was 35. So I retrained. It was the natural progression from having a furniture company to going into fitness, right? No, yeah, exactly. So I retrained and relaunched myself into this, and it's the best thing I've ever done. But where I started was I went from company director to gym dog's body and gym instructor. So I went from from basically having my own company to cleaning the toilets, wiping down machines, and helping members with their requests, covering reception during lunch hour and all the rest of it. Then I've been a PT. I've been a PT manager. I've had my own studio. I've had my own studio and wellness center. I've done every job in fitness except own a gym, basically. So then I transitioned into full-time education mentoring and mindset coaching in the industry predominantly, but the mindset coaching will go beyond that as well. So I'm very lucky, and it's an absolute privilege to be here. I'm passionate about all this stuff, and hopefully that passion will come across to you today. And if you whack the next slide up, Travis, I just kind of want to kind of recognize the odd scenario that we're in right now. Okay, my reality is, like, I've got 4 kids. I come away from those 4 kids, and then I stand in a room alone to speak to you, all you wonderful people. And there I am. That's where I started this morning, was on that beach in that water. That's my reality, right? So I come to this and stand in a room alone and speak to you, hundreds of other people from all over other places, and most of you are probably on your own in a room somewhere too. So I just want to recognize that may be odd, but really, because you're all everywhere and you're all alone, just like me in this room right now, actually, it's me and you having a bit of a chat over the next wee while. We're going to let Travis have a bit of a talk first, and then I'll come and join you in a little while, and I'll kind of launch, hopefully, in some stuff that maybe not, it will be mainly not easily come to mind when you look at assessment. Cheers, Travis.
Yeah, awesome, JP. So I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to be talking about some simple sort of, I suppose, more physical assessments that you can use and you can talk about, just to really maybe open your minds a little bit, maybe broaden your horizons. Maybe you're familiar with them, and if you are, that's amazing. Like awesome. Like it's all these things are great bits of information. But assessment skills, typically we're looking at beyond the basics. Like we all are here as Oz Active people. You should have the pre-screener. You should know what it's there. It's approved by plenty of other bodies. It's great because it's concise. It's clear. If you answer yes to any of those questions, you've got to go to question 6. If you answer no, you're all good. All right. So you can start moving on and looking at some other things. Now, I'm going to throw, this is probably not Luke, maybe not the time. I feel like the colors are back to front there for yes and no on the pre-screener, by the way, because it's like red and green. So I think it should be the other way around. Sorry. Why do we ask them? We ask them for pure health and safety, right? We want to know as much about our client as possible to make sure that we're providing them with the utmost care in a health and in the best possible healthy and safety manner. Okay. Now, obviously, things can happen. I've chatted to plenty of trainers who've had issues with clients who have had issues that had defibrillators there, they've not had defibrillators there, all that sort of stuff. But we want to make sure that there's no underlying health issues. All right. Physical assessments. Now, when it comes to physical assessments, what people typically talk about is things like strength. They talk about endurance and they talk about flexibility. So most PTs are like, oh yeah, I do max push-ups in 60 seconds. Oh, I do a sit and reach test. Oh, I do a VO2 thing on the watt bike, maybe if you've got access to it, or a beep test. So these are some of the physical assessments that we can do. Now, they are great. Obviously, it's good to be able to do physical assessments. Throw it in the chat what sort of physical assessments you might be doing as well beyond, say, a health screener, some of your go-tos. A lot of people do like planks and stuff like that, just different tests. What I want to talk about is just a few different ones or a different way to look at it for some people. If you've got super fit clientele, maybe it's not super appropriate, but it's definitely appropriate for more beginner clientele. And we're going to chat about this. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is a study that was done titled, How Fast Does the Grim Reaper Walk? All right. So this is actually, I didn't realize it was a Sydney study when I analyzed it. It's in the British Medical Journal, but it's actually a study from Sydney. Which was really interesting. So what it looks at is, what can the walking speed of a client tell us? All right. So if you've got young, fit, healthy clients and they're running, this is not necessarily for them, but maybe you've got a client who is a bit older, who's had a sedentary lifestyle, maybe heavily overweight. What can their walking speed tell us? All right. So this was a study of 1,700 men aged over 70. All right. What it found was the walking speed of about 3 kilometers an hour. So if that was their max walking speed, it was very predictive of their mortality. All right. So basically, if they weren't able to walk over 3 kilometers an hour, they were more likely to die within a certain period of time. All right. We're going to go through this as well. Within the study, as they analyzed these 1,700 men, the study period was, I think it was a period of time. Anyone who walked over 5 kilometers an hour, they were able to avoid being caught by the Grim Reaper. All right. So people who were able to maintain walking 5 kilometers an hour and above didn't die in the study period, basically. All right. Now, another meta-analysis of a further study on like gait speed and all that sort of stuff. So like meters per second, which is the 1.36 meters per second. It also concluded that the identical like 0.8 meter per second speed was associated with the median life expectancy for both sexes, so both male, female, and across ages as well. All right. So there's the link for the study there. So essentially, what does this tell us about a client? If you've got a client who's only walking, their max walking speed is 3 kilometers an hour, you need to try and get them walking faster. All right. And you need to work towards getting them up to that 5 kilometer an hour speed as an absolute baseline. Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is a sit to rise test. So this one was from a Brazilian study. JP, anything you wanted to add? Yeah, you also get the slides, Sean. That's cool. JP, anything you wanted to add on the walking speed study at all?
No, that's fine. I other than what a great title, I definitely would fail the Grim Reaper test, of course, because I'm such a casual walker. Anything can catch me. So you got to make sure it's not just they're a cash guy like myself. Got to make sure, okay, then what do you have? What do you have in the tank? If I need you to walk fast across a road, what do you have in the tank?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. It's not like kind of just like their lolloping gait, as it were. We need to know what they can actually physically do at their best, and get that improved if it's below 5Ks.
Beautiful. So the sit and rise test. Again, what can the act of simply standing or simply sitting tell us about someone? Again, another study. Let me just move my face out of the way briefly. So this was 2002 people, 50 to 80 roughly, predominantly men, and it was evaluating essentially the relationship between being able to sit down on the floor and stand up against all cause mortality. So that's all potential causes of death. All right. So that is a bit of an image on what the test looks like. I actually find this really challenging myself because of knees and hips and all that sort of fun stuff. But you can vary it a little bit for people who have like knee issues and stuff like that. But the sit to rise test, it's essentially scored from 0 to 5 on the way down, and then 0 to 5 on the way up. So you get a total score of 10. And every time that you touch or use a support to stand up, you lose a point. All right. So you end up with a certain score out of 10. Okay. So what it found was the sit to rise test also was a big predictor of mortality in those subjects between 50 to 80-year-old subjects. So I'm going to talk about, I think I've got a graph coming up next. There's the study down there. Here's the graph that sort of shows it. So up the left-hand side, it's the percentage of people who survived, and across the bottom is how many years for the follow-up. So as you can see, it was like over 14 years, this particular study. The people who managed to score 8 out of 10, all right, so that means they only touched the ground twice, getting up or sitting down, or they used their knee or whatever it might be. That's that black line at the top there. So as you can see, over this 14 years, they are substantially higher than the people who had to touch the ground 7 times or more, which, as you can see, none of them, well, maybe not none of them, but, what is that? 60% survivors, so 60% of them didn't last, so they didn't last beyond sort of 10 years of this follow-up of this study. So you can see it is a substantial difference for clients getting up off the ground without having to lean on things, without using their knee, without using their hands, provides a substantial predictor for their longevity. All right. JP, you've taken yourself on mute. Something to add?
Yeah, well, it's a hugely powerful study. So the thing about it is that you will know, probably some of your clients, you'll know there's no way they can do that. It will be hugely intimidating and give them a massive sense of failure if you were to actually put them through that. So what you would do is I would suggest, you'll get them to a point, not the floor, but maybe a bench or something like that, and see how they go with that. Because every time they put a knee on something, if they do a big rock, they lose a point, right? So what we need to do is make sure we're actually progressing and aiming for success with people all the time. So if you already know they can't do it, man, this isn't a test that you put them through, because that's just going to depress them and stress them. Ironically, what does depression and stress do to people? It shortens their life. So we don't want to do that anymore. However, knowing that could be a thing that you could do with them in the future, the test could be the goal. So that's the way I would use it for those people. But when I've done talks for older age populations, I talk about this. I don't get them to do it in the room though. And as Travis said, you'll get a lot of stiff, fit people that really do badly in this. And I'm sorry to describe you as that, Travis, but Travis he's a lifter, right? And so he's not the most flexible dude. He's strong as an ox, but not the most flexible dude. Plus, he's got a few little injuries along the way, right? So it's a great thing for us to do too, because of it's not about, yes, it does test strength and it does test flexibility. And that's a physical test, but also there's a whole heap of things that they then can't do in their life that it indicates for us. So we know that as something that can tell us a whole heap of stuff about a person's lifestyle that we do not know and shouldn't be asking about, that will give us this information. And that's why this is so very powerful. It's not really about sit to rise. It's about all the stuff that it stands for.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add there is if you are running a test like this, you're not going, or the walking speed test, you're not going, oh, by the way, you're walking at 3 kilometers an hour, so I probably won't be seeing you next year. You know, and the same sort of thing with this sort of test, right? You don't want to add that anxiety and that stress on people going like, hey, by the way, the people who are 0 to 3 here, more likely to die within 10 years. So, sorry, you know, yeah, sometimes it's keeping your cards close to your chest a little bit as you know that information, right? But it's stuff for you to work on. And one of my later slides is just some little simple programming stuff as well around this. So essentially, from the lower to higher sit to rise score test, each unit from each score increase was a 21% improvement in survival. So each time you can get one less point of contact, you're more likely to survive longer throughout this period. All right. The next one we're looking at, which is the last one of my sort of area, is grip strength. So what can your handshake tell us? That's the great Arnie from, is it The Predator? Is it, I can't remember what movie it is, but the great image of Arnie's bicep there with the handshake. So this was a study of 6,000 or just over 6,000 men tested over a long period of time. So they were followed up 25 years later. Okay, so it started in the sort of 60s and then followed up 25 years later. It also, through this test, they also did stuff like walking speed, and they also had that as a high confidence of mortality as well. And this was the risk of self-care disability was more than 2 times greater in the lowest versus the highest hand grip strength. So people who had the strongest hand grip 25 years later were still living happy, independent, healthy lives at a 2 times greater amount compared to those who had the lowest score on the grip strength. Okay. Now, again, it was as you can see, it was basically the summary of it was the grip strength was highly predictive of functional limitations and disabilities 25 years later. All right. So grip strength is another one that is an important one. And it's one that, you know, I'm not telling you go out there and do your forearm curls and all that sort of stuff. That's not what you're going out to there to program. Grip strength is something that's done in everyday life. It's something that we do when we're picking up the shopping. It's something that we do when we're picking up kids. It's something we do all the time. So hanging from things. Hanging's a great thing. And JP might, we probably won't get to touch on that today, but we've touched on that previously. All right. And so that is an indicator there. And there's the study there as well. So what can you do with this sort of information? So, okay, good question around measuring with the women. A lot of these studies are in time, so more and more studies are getting done with women, but women are maybe less predictable than men due to certain physiological factors like menstruation and stuff like that. So they have different things like that. That most of these studies have just been done on men predominantly. The sit to stand one was sort of close to, not quite 50-50, but closer. Casual or correct. Yeah, look, I mean, so it definitely showed that people who had the longer grip strength were able to live a more free lifestyle afterwards, long term. So it was around disabilities and functioning stuff. But yeah, good question. Yeah, and good question there, Kim, as well around the cross-legged because of the knees. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly sort of part of the reason for me. I struggle with it. For me, it's more my hip mobility. But some people who would have knee issues, yeah, you might have to have some kind of variation to that as well. Yeah. So what now? What can you do, or what can you use these what can you use this information for? All right. because it's going to be more relevant for some clients than others. Obviously, if you're working with older clients, that's one it's going to be more relevant for. It's going to be more relevant if you're working with sort of heavily obese clients. These are just some sort of baseline things that you can look at beyond like how many push-ups can you do. Okay, so rather than just looking at your client, okay, if they're heavily obese, they can't do one push-up, like, okay, cool, can we get them walking? What's their walking speed at the moment? How can they walk at that speed? All right, so, and also, heavily deconditioned clients, you could use a lot of this stuff for. It's not going to be necessarily tests you're using on the your young fit, even older fit clients potentially. All right, so my advice is making sure you take that holistic approach to your programming, so that we're able to keep walking faster than the Grim Reaper, essentially. So what does that mean? Making sure that your clients can move at speeds 5 kilometers and above, right? Making sure they can move at those sort of speeds. How you do that, it could be, shuttle runs, it can be, walking through a thing, whatever it might be, but just making sure your clients are able to walk and move at that speed if they need to, okay? Next one, carrying objects. This is one of my favorite exercises, carrying objects, pushing sleds, all of that sort of good stuff that's good for everybody, no matter what age you are. One of the ones I've just recently heard about sleds is, it doesn't matter how old you are with a sled, like it's a pretty safe exercise, like it's, as you push it, it's sort of self-limiting. If it's too heavy, you can't push it, right? And it's you moving the object. So it's a very safe exercise as well. So carrying objects, farmers carries, offset farmers carries even better, I reckon. So like having just the load in one hand. My favorite is a kettlebell, one hand, off you go for a walk. That sort of stuff's great for grip strength. Hanging, great for grip strength, all of that sort of good stuff. And then stuff where you're getting up and off the floor. Turkish Get-Ups. I love Turkish Get-Ups. One of the best all-round exercises. And again, not for all clients straight away. Getting up and out of the seat might be where you're starting, as JP mentioned. Just getting up and out of a normal seat in a normal manner without having to use all of their different supports, because that's what people have to do every day. Getting in and out of a car, getting out of bed, getting off a toilet. The minute you can't get up from a seated position, your life quality, I would say, dramatically decreases. Essentially, if you can't get up out of that seated position as an older adult, you end up being bedridden. And I've seen that firsthand with grandparents and stuff like that. And I'm sure some of you may relate to those stories. The minute my grandmother went into sort of aged care and stopped having to go to the letterbox and stopped having to do this stuff, within 6 months, she was like bedridden and never out of a bed, happens very quickly. So do those things, move beyond 5 kilometers, carry things, get up and off the floor, get up and out of seats, do those things, and you're going to help set yourself up for a nice, long, healthy life. They are the things I'm talking about when it comes to assessment. JP, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is a Turkish Get Up? Sorry, before I do, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is a Turkish Get Up? So that person carrying that other person, that's a lady carrying another lady. Turkish Get Up is a movement getting up and off the floor, usually done very well with kettlebells, works really well with kettlebells. Dumbbell can be done, or if you're an OG strongman, can be done with a person. It's just a series of movements to get up and off the floor, 6 parts. Really good movement. Google it, Turkish Get Up.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll throw it over to you, JP.
Can you take the slides off the screen for a moment?
Yeah. There you go.
Cool. All right then. So I always like to speak to people, and hopefully, like, rather than you just look at the slide constantly, every now and again, it's kind of nice to see a face, even if that face is mine. So all of the stuff that we've been talking about so far is very much around the physical. Okay, we have human beings walk through the door, and we focus on their human bodies. So what we want to do is take this beyond that and go, okay, then let's connect with these people as human beings as well. And it was great. I was watching the chat go through, and everyone's talking about all the different assessments, and they're great, honestly. And you're obviously, because there's such a broad range of different physical assessments that you're doing, it's awesome, because that shows me that you are tailoring that to all the vast variety of clients that you have. Awesome. And it is great. And we are effectively in the industry of the physical, right? But what walks through our door isn't just a physical entity. So we need to take account of more than that. So what I want to do is actually to shift that conversation into that realm, but I want to add some structure and specificity to a really obvious question that you guys are already all asking. I'm just going to give you some structure and specificity around it. And the stuff that I share today is actually from my own mentorship program. I have several mentorships under the Next Level banner, and this is from the Next Level Movement Mentorship. And ordinarily, I do not share stuff that's specific to the mentorship program. But I want to share this with you today because hopefully you can see the power of questions. Thanks, Travis. We can throw back onto the slides. Many thanks. Okay, so we're looking at the power of questions. Why would we ask them? What does it give you? Yeah. And how these answers might then affect the session that you are about to do, because these are questions that you would ask at the start of every session, and it takes next to no time at all. And then how can we potentially affect the answers to some of those questions within the first 10 minutes of the session as well? So you can really change, really change the outcome of a session, but also the outcome of your relationship with that client. And get ready for the color, everyone. Next slide, please, Travis. So this is the Next Level Body Audit. This is what I want to share with you today. So I want to take you through these questions and then how this uses, and then I want to talk about it afterwards. So don't get caught up too much on this, first of all, because you're going to tell me all sorts of other questions that you can ask too. I just want to give you the questions that we ask, and then put all the structure, the foundation information in afterwards, okay? I want you all to do this with me right now. And in the chat, let me open the chat again. In the chat, tell me what your score is today. So you are going to give yourself a point for each one of these that you can say yes to, all right? So number one, I slept well last night. Number two, I've nourished myself with great food in the last 24 hours. Number three, I've hydrated myself well with water today. Number four, I've moved well and often in the last 24 hours. A little caveat to that. If you have thrashed yourself to oblivion in the last few days, that's not moving well and often. That's if you hurt right now, you can't give yourself that point. Similarly, if you sat on your butt in front of Netflix for the last 3-4 hours, you also do not give yourself a point. It's at both ends of the scale, all right? My body is free from restriction, aches, and pains. My stress is low and I'm feeling positive. I feel energized and ready to move. Let's see some of your scores. Okay, so we've got some really great scores coming through. And be completely honest, by the way, there's no judgment here. Like this is just how you are right now. It's irrelevant. We don't put a judgment on it. We're just saying, hey, what are you, right? So we're getting some awesome numbers. Anything between 3 and 7 seems to be the thing. Lots of 5s and 6s. This is really good. But do you know what? This isn't a number to make you feel good or bad about yourself. This is just a number. It doesn't have a positive or negative. It just is. All right. It just is. So if I was to, in fact, I should probably do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, wow. Okay, then. It's very rare that I'm a 7, everyone. But hey,
well, yeah,
I'll take it.
You've got 4 kids, right? Like
I'll take it. Yeah, I got 4 kids.
I slept well last night, considering
that's the irony. I slept well last night because my wife took the hit last night so that I would be fresh for today. How cool is that? That's teamwork for you. So thank you for all your scores, everyone. That's really cool. So here we go. Do you see how quick that was? You've all instantly gone, bang, that's what I am. This is right. So what we would then do is we'll have this on the wall, by the way. This is a poster on the wall of all my Next Level Movement Mentorship graduates. It's on the wall of their studios or their gyms or in their file if they work out of a gym all across Australia and New Zealand. So then we would go, okay, then, what might we do that information? Well, if you scored 0 to 3, we would do what we might call a restore and refresh session. So it wouldn't necessarily be a flogging, all right? So people might come in expecting a flogging, but how can you give them a flogging when they are so depleted, yeah? If they are depleted already and you add more stressors, remember, exercises of stress, we add that to the mix, what you're going to do is you take them further away from their overall goal, not closer to that. Yeah, you would think, oh, well, I'm there and that's what I'm paid to do. Well, no, actually, you're paid to move them really well. You're paid to exercise them. You're paid to move them physically, right? How can you add to their world, not take further from their world with doing that? If they're on a 4 to 5, enlive and energize, it's one of those moderate and intermediate type sessions. And if they're on 6 to 7, I say choose or challenge. So in other words, they could choose still a restore and recover type session, right? But you can go for it if you want to. Now, you might go, okay, then, but I've got this type of session planned today. This might change that. And I know that's quite intimidating when you've planned the session. But honestly, do you want to take your client further away from the goal that they have set with you together? I know that because you are at this session and you are so passionate that you want to tune in to a thing that's all about assessing people and all about doing the best by your people based upon those assessments, I know that you are the guys that want to do best for your clients. So you want to take them closer to their goals. However, what if they only score a 3 and they come in and say, please, I want to do a lot more than just some foam rolling and some gentle movement. I want to do more than that. Well, here's the cool thing. We can affect that score within that first 10 minutes of the session. If we just bump to the next slide, Trav, this is the cool thing about that, is that we might do that and go, okay, then, all right, then, what might we be able to do? Can we affect their sleep? Well, no, but can we affect their recovery? Yes. All right. So we might start the session with some stuff that helps them feel a little bit more recovered. Yeah. They might be overwhelmed and feeling tired. How might we be able to bring them into the room better? How might we be able to engage them without flogging them? Well, for me, play a game, right? It's that simple. You bring them straight into the moment. Oh, if we play a game, that will just kind of bring them into the moment, then engage with something, they'll start moving, they'll come alive. Music, their choice of music might also do that as well, but we can't give them more sleep. Nutrition, well, we're not going to start feeding them really great food, are we? So, okay, before we start, here's really good meat and vegetables for you, right? We're not going to do that. Hydration, can we affect hydration? Yeah, absolutely we can, yeah? Absolutely we can, of course we can. So we can get them drinking as they're doing their first movement of the session or whatever the first act of that session might be. Movement, all right? Have they moved well and often? Well, maybe not, but can we affect their movement in that first 10 minutes of the session? Yes, of course. We can do some mobility work with them. We might be able to do some sort of restorative actions with them. We might play a game. I'm back to play again. You wouldn't think that I've lectured on play for the last 10 years, would you? But you can play and do games with them, and that also would be natural, multi-directional, what I would describe as myofascial movement, neuromyofascial movement, biopsychosocial model type movement. What about aches, pains, and restrictions? Can we do something about that? Yes, we can. We can absolutely affect that. Mobility work, foam roller stuff. If you've got a vibration platform, you might put them through some vibration training stuff. You might put them through some form of fascial stretch routine, whatever it might be. Or you might actually do some activation patterns and things like that that will actually take away a lot of those. Just getting them moving and getting the blood, lymph, and hydration through to the tissues of their body will probably reduce aches and restrictions enormously in that first 10 minutes. Stress, can we affect stress levels if they're coming super stressed? Absolutely, we can affect that. Of course we can affect that. How? Well, how might JP might do that? I wonder. He's lectured on playing games for 10 years. Yeah, of course, I'm going to play a game with them. Oh man, it's going to lighten the mood. Let's just play something that's going to get them laughing and moving and just generally feeling completely different. So you take them into the moment, right? You take them into the moment. It's impossible to be stressed in the moment unless that moment is stressful. Does that make sense? So make the moment that they are fully engaged in what psychologists call the deep now, right? Take them into the deep now, all right? So they're only focused on what you are doing and make that thing positive, engaging, uplifting, right? The stress will melt away. They cannot be stressed in that moment. Can we affect stress? You bet your damn piece of gluten-free bread you can, right? Energy levels. Can we affect how they feel? They're coming, oh my God, I'm just exhausted. Can we affect that? La! Yes, we can affect that too. You can take them from a 1 to a 6. Bang, like that in the first 10 minutes of the session. Then you can rescore. You can go back to the first set of questions. You go, hey, can we just take you through these questions again? What is your score now? Wow, you're a 5. Is that right? All right, then. That puts a whole heap of lovely dishes on the menu for us from now on. So what we've done is we've taken a question that is you are all asking already, which is, how are you today? Right? How are you going? I can guarantee you're all asking those questions. You might even ask a couple of these questions as well, right? It brings this structure and specificity in though, right? Now, some people have it on the wall and they'll just go, hey, can you give me your score today, right? So they don't even have to go through that openly and admit that, yes, for the 18th week in a row, they're not going to bed early enough, right? Or, you know, for the 25th year in a row, they still haven't drunk enough water. That might be a private thing they want to keep from you because it's just going to make them uncomfortable, put their stress levels up. So we just go, give me your score today. All right, then. Where can I help? Right? Or they will openly go through the questions. Yeah. So you go, okay, then tell me about your sleep. Tell me about you. So you can go through that. And what that'll be is a great conversation starter, right? Because it's like, oh, right, sleep again. Hey, it's been like that for a little while now. What can we do about that? Is there anything that could affect that? Because I'd love to be able to, you know, all right, no, the kids, and all right then. So what could we do? What is there out there that we could actually do? What is there in your world that could do? What would need to change for that to change? What would need to change in your life for that to change? This is where we step beyond our sessions, right? This is where we go, okay, then I can do this session with you. And this is the physical stuff, which is all awesome. Like I say, you guys are here. So I know you're the cream, right? You're doing awesome sessions already. So then we step out of the session and we step into their life. And we affect every day from then on because we're talking about their sleep or we're talking about their movement. We're talking about their aches and pains. We're sending them away with some stuff that they can do on a daily basis that will bring those aches and pains and restrictions under control. Maybe even see them get out. And that's what I do in the next level stuff, right? So can we affect all of those? Yes, we can. There's very little we can't really give them a meal when they come in, and we can't really make sleep happen when they're with us, but we can affect everything else really, really simply. And then we can rescore. Now, if they are still on a 2 after all of that, who's going to give them the flogging of their life after that? Who in good conscience would do that? Because they are already in a situation where they are stressed and depleted. You're going to take them into this point of where they get sick or injured or, quite frankly, not come back and see you. So let's now talk about the connection that might bring for you and your clients.
Can I just
Who else?
add a couple of
Trav?
things, JP?
Go.
One, you spoke about like that flow sort of state, getting people in, so some de-stressing games. If you follow your emails afterwards, we can send you out some of our bootcamp games that we use, which are great for groups. You can do it for individuals. Some cool stuff. I don't know whether I saw it with you in New Zealand, but it was someone who used like a piece of dowel, like a shortcut of dowel, and they had people balance it on their finger, and they walked around trying to do like a bit of a balancing act with this piece of wood through like a map. And that was just like to focus on that one thing at that one time that's not stressing, that people can achieve. And then all of a sudden their stress about their life, their kids, their money, their COVID, their whatever disappears because they're worrying about this one little stick on their finger. You know, I spoke recently, I mentioned the podcast earlier with Keegan Smith, who works with Knees Over Toes guy, if you're familiar. We spoke about juggling. You know, some people doing some juggling, something focusing intensely on a subject like that, you know, something that just gets them out of their head and focusing on that one thing is what you want to do. One question in there was, how would you adapt this with maybe a group scenario? Is there a good, easy way for groups for this?
Yes.
Was it more one-on-one?
Absolutely. I'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about, in fact, do you want to get rid of the slides off the screen again? And let's just have a bit of a a bit of a chat.
We've got cognizant of time here, JP, as well.
Yeah, I know. We've got what we got 10 minutes, and then we'll do some more Q&A.
Yeah, we got more than that. I think we can run a
Cool.
little bit
10
over.
to 15 minutes. That's fine. So Travis is just warning me there because he knows I really love to wax lyrical and go off down rabbit holes. And thank you for allowing me to go down rabbit holes, everyone. It's really good. I like questions in a big way. By the way, follow my thing. I've done a session, well, a 10 CEC course with Fitness Education Online called Virtual Games. So when the COVID thing happened, that you can do through a screen, let alone in person. But for example, follow my finger is a really, really simple game, right, that you can do. So all I get is you can have, and this is bring people in right now. You just go to me, I want you to keep your nose in line with the pad of my finger and go. All right. So what you're doing is you've got to just keep moving, and you can, depending on the skill of your client, you can take them right down to the floor and back up again. And all they've got to do is actually, okay, where are they focused there? Absolutely right there in the moment. Suddenly you get, so see how easy these things are. They don't, but what I love about that is you can do a mobility session through Follow My Finger, because if you do a bit of Follow My Finger, say follow my finger and also mirror some of my movements. Right? So it might be you go wide with your feet and then do follow your finger. Bang, deep front line, what I would call deep front line. So center line, myofascial chain stuff, that would open up that line because it's movement and elasticity. All right. You can actually get your thoracic. So it might be you're going to move up, but your hips are going to stay still. So it might be thoracic mobility stuff for follow my finger. Then it might be you have to fix your hips and your thoracic, and then it's only from the ankle. So you can actually take them into rotation. It's incredible what you can do, and it doesn't take much. And you probably saw the thinking outside the box thing. That's my specialty, right? Is take it wherever you need to take that. But if you want ideas, they are in abundance. And I think I even put 49 balloon games in that virtual games video as well. So there's a lot out there that you can do. Number two, how can you, if this is like, oh, you'd be looking at those questions, it's a one-on-one thing, really. It's a one-on-one training thing, really. Well, here's how you'd adapt it. Let's say you've got a group of, I don't mind if it's 20 or 50 people, right? Here we are, and we go, okay, then everyone, here's what we're going to do. Okay, then, who slept more than 6 hours last night? All right, then. Okay, so you go through, and they'll just kind of, all right. You start off obviously giving them the no judgment speech. This just is, okay? This is just what we are today. It's just what we are in this moment right now. And you go through and you go, okay, then everyone that scored above 5, can you go there? Everyone that scored between 3 and 5, just go there. Everyone scored, okay. So then you got these 3 groups. Then you put them through the first bit, okay? And it might be the game or whatever, right? But at least they're working with like for like. So you haven't got a 1 working with a 7, all right? Because that 1 is about to die, all right? The Grim Reaper is about to catch them, right? So put them through that. Do a quick rescore. All right, then, where are you now, guys? Go then. So then you've got to go, okay, then, right, here's the obvious people that can go. And then you can actually run that, and it can be the same. And all it is you can either give them different advice, or you can actually just tweak the session for those people that are in that kind of 3 range rather than in the 6, 7 range. Okay. So for me, it's just words, right? It's just like, hey guys, you guys today, I don't want you going above a 7 out of 10 in terms of your intensity. Okay. You guys over here, I am happy for you to go for it. All right. So it might just be that. So then you're giving them permission to not kill themselves. I think that's good permission to give. Right? As opposed to over here, looking at, okay, you can go for your life, because I know it's safe to do that. Just to let you know, for me, going through this, combining that with the myofascial stuff that I do, injuries within a session across 10 years were less than the fingers on one hand in my sessions. Less than 5 injuries in a decade of working in movement sessions, big groups as well as one-on-ones. And those injuries weren't as a result of me overstretching the client. It was like someone's tripped and dislocated a finger or something like that, right? So you look at that and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And if you want a kind of a body of work to test that against, it's that, and then all my mentorees. the 100 or so people that have gone through the next level movement mentorship, they can report all the same stats, right? We don't get injuries in sessions. What does that mean for you? That's people who are continuing to pay for your services and that bloody love you. They love you because you care about them, because you're asking the questions that no one else seems to be asking. You're connecting with them as an individual, as a human being. That's pretty powerful from that point of view. Right, we better go back to the slides because otherwise I'm going to be getting nudged by people. So you think, what is it all to do with, JP? What is your basis of that? Well, we'll talk a little bit about interoception in terms of how are we getting in touch? What are we actually how are we contacting people with this, right? So next slide, please. We're going to talk interoception. We are going to talk about how important interoception is. So for example, Robert Schleip, who's a big researcher in the whole myofascial system. Myo is muscles, fascia is connective tissue. We work, in my world with the neuromyofascial system. So the obviously nerves, muscles, and fascia, and how they all go together to create really powerful, effective results from a mobility all the way through to high performance. But interoceptions, they're sensory receptors for interoceptions, are free nerve endings, most of which are located in fascial tissues, connective tissues throughout the human body. If you understand how they work, you have another little extra view into someone's world. Then the next slide. What are the two most expensive things a brain can do? Learning something new and moving its body. Every brain region that's claimed to be the home of emotion in humans is a body budgeting region within the interoceptive network. All right, get rid of the slides again, Trav, because I want to make that, turn that into English. So we've got all these nerve endings. They proliferate throughout our body. What they are is our feel system, all right? If you are currently experiencing a reaction to a meal from yesterday, okay, that feeling is coming through your interoceptive system. They are the internal free nerve endings, okay? There's more of those than there are proprioceptors in our body. Okay? So when someone goes, oh yeah, inside my hip's a bit grumpy, interoceptors, okay? Not just pain receptors, interoceptors as well, right? Now, the interoceptive system also is responsible for communicating the reactions in your body as a result of emotions. So someone comes in stressed. I'm really stressed right now. How do you know you're really stressed right now? You are contacting your interoceptive network. It is letting you know what's going on in your system, internal world, so that you can then go, yeah, I'm pretty stressed at the moment. Oh, right. So how are you stressed? How might most of us feel stressed? Oh, with me, I'm a gut-driven person, right? I'm like, oh, it just hits me straight in the gut. I'm like, oh, right, okay. With a lot of people, tightness through the chest, okay? How do you experience tightness through the chest? It's not just a physical thing, right? You're aware of this pressure in your body, right? So those questions, just to make this link for you really obvious, most of the questions that I ask in that 7-question list are interoceptive questions. How do you feel? How are you going today, right? It's a how are you going today, but making it more specific. Why am I doing that? Because I want them to get in touch with their interoceptive network. Why would I want them to get in touch with their interoceptive network? Because the interoceptive network is so powerful in the body budgeting region of the brain. What is the body budgeting region in the brain? Well, that's the thing that predicts how much energy we're going to need in the coming day or in the hours that follow, right? So if in the hours that follow, your interoceptive network is going, oh, geez, things are pretty rough in here. Aches and pains, gut problems because their diet is so poor, lack of hydration, meaning restriction in the tissues of my body, grumpiness all through there, stress to the hilt, all of that stuff is feeding back. So the body budgeting region of the brain goes, we're going to need a good bit of energy for that. Tell you what, we'll limit what they can do physically as a result of that. Now, 10 minutes goes by and you go, all right, then now this has happened. Let's say you've done some awesome restore and recover type work. You've done some really great functional movements, some great myofascial mobility work. You've played a game with them. You brought them into the deep now. Their stress is leaving their body and all the rest of it. The body budget region of the brain goes, maybe I was wrong about that. Things are actually, all the stuff that's coming back at the moment, emotionally, by the way, emotional lifts as well, all of that goes back to the brain, goes, all right then, brain, you can chuck a bit more energy into the movement and learning bucket now, because actually it looks like we're going to be doing pretty well. So now you can move more, all right? Whereas actually, previous to that, without asking those questions, we've got the flogging session lined up. They've come in at a 1 and you don't know. You've flogged the crap out of them, right? And it's just like, well, it's not even available. Oh, performance was really low today, okay? Ah, damn, I've just got to work harder. Damn, I'm down on myself, okay? Take your emotions even lower. Suck out more energy into the body budget in region of the brain, going, okay, then we're going to need to manage all this stress and this poor emotional state and these aches and pains and this hideous stuff that's just happened in the last hour. Taking them further and further and further away until all you can see is them gripping on for dear life to life, right? So I realize I've connected some dots to some big concepts there, but do you see how important that is? It's not just stress is kind of important. No, there are mechanisms at work within human physiological beings that actually affect all of that. So mental world, emotional world, plus physical world, which is all in those questions right there, okay? You ask those questions, how powerful are they? I do movement screens all the time, by the way. It's not like I don't do all that stuff too, right? But without those questions, what can I do with anyone, right? Without knowing that information, what really can I do, okay? So the beauty of them is that they are questions that aren't too intimidating. You're not asking them why they're stressed. You're not asking them to tell you about the problems they've got with their partner at the moment and they might be losing their job, right? You're just saying, how are your stress levels, right? It gives you a window into their world. Behind each of those questions, massive depth and probably breadth as well. But they're really, really powerful questions. So you'll get the slides, everyone, by the way. People are saying, can we see the questions again? You'll get the slides and I'm happy to share those with you. Just be aware, the next level body audit, that is copyright me and the next level, just so that you know. Let me just check in with my slides again, Travis, because I was just for a couple of minutes. I know I've got a couple of minutes left. So, so if we get things right, if you haven't heard of the vagus nerve before, it's actually part of one of the cranial nerves, but it proliferates throughout your system. Interoceptors give information to the vagus nerve. You stimulate the vagus nerve, you are gone into parasympathetic rest and restore and recover and recuperate state, right? You want to improve that situation, improve your interoceptive feedback so it stimulates the vagus nerve and you take them into a better place. Hey, awesome, right? So, Luke says, no rush for the time name on the session, guys. Take your time. It's like, I'm gradually speaking faster and faster, right? So with the vagus nerve, if we can stimulate the vagus nerve, how do we do that? Well, one thing is connecting with other people. We can, vagal tone, which we talk about massively in the recovery course that we've done. Vagal tone is the push that button and it's the super highway to the parasympathetic state, okay? How can we do that? Well, we need to get interoceptors happier. How might we do that? Well, you might actually deal with, for a starting point, dealing with the questions that we've just outlined today and actually making things a little bit happier in the answers to those questions. That's just a start, but honestly, the vagus nerve, that's another lecture completely. Movement screens, myofascial movement, another session completely. We've got all of that amazing stuff. However, next slide, please, Travis. Here's the thing. We're talking about affecting the state of a human being, right? The state, the overall state, mentally, emotionally, and physically of that human being. if we can affect their state, we will affect their function, right? How well can they, in general, do things? How well does their body move? How well does their mind work? Are they more creative? Are they more adaptable? Are they more here, right? Then that, therefore, will affect the performance that they'll get, not just within the session, but in all sessions in the future. And of course, we're about results, okay? If we want to do well for our people, then we need to affect the results. And that really is the way we are assessed, isn't it? Do we get results for our clients? Yeah. Next slide. All right. So can we get rid of the slides just for a moment, Trav? I keep getting him to do all the work, don't I? It's pretty bad. I don't know. Hopefully you're not finding stuff out about me that I'm getting Trav to do that. But I'm a great talker, and I let Trav do the tech stuff. I can just about operate a computer, but I'm really into human being stuff, right? So with this stuff, what I'm trying to get across to you is, we say that assessments matter. Yes, they do. But if we can get a handle on the human being level of a human being, rather than just going for human body, that's where health and fitness comes in. We bring some health stuff into the mix. Yeah. We bring some mind body stuff into that. We understand that all human performance, physical performance, is only partly to do with the physical. And we can have a direct effect on those other things super easy, right? Really simply, with that stuff that I've just done there. Now, my entire kind of background and my entire programs that I run, as well as the courses that I do with Fitness Education Online, are all about, let's take a human being through this so that their physical performance is better. And that might be they're better as a mum, they're better as a professional athlete, which are other people that I see, or they're better because they can walk now and they didn't used to be able to walk. That simple. Maybe you get these stories that make me want to cry, quite frankly. I had a client early days when I was doing this stuff. This tiny little lady, she walked along sort of here, and we're walking through the gym. She goes, "Can I just tell you something? We're 3 weeks into training." And she goes, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, anything." She goes, "Oh, I can wipe my bottom." I'm like, "You telling me you couldn't wipe your bottom before?" And she said, "No." Like, instantly, I want to cry, because what our sessions have brought to her world, by understanding her as a whole entity, is that now she's got a basic function that can happen in her everyday life that gives her dignity that she didn't have for years until that point. How amazing is that, to have that kind of impact on someone's life because you understand them better and you can do it simple as, all right? That's massive impact. And to me now, I tell that story, I still want to cry. It's so powerful, that stuff. So really, really, really important to ask a few questions, and with my pleasure, use them, because it will make your life so much better for your clients. Not only that, but the connection piece. Again, you want to talk about social connection ever? That's another hour. And I can tell you all the connections between social connection, interoceptive system, vagus nerve, and longevity and performance, just about social connection, right? But the connection you then have with your clients is enhanced. Their health outcomes as a result of that connection just got better. Trav, I'm sure you need to tell them what happens after this session. But yeah, if you want to do more with me, reach out. You'll have my contact details in a moment.
We'll get your details here up in a sec, JP. So people are saying thanks, and I just want to throw a shout out to a lot of people saying thanks to me. I'm just here for the ride, guys. I just tagged along there to justify my place to chat with JP. But AusActive are doing great with these webinars, and hopefully you guys are enjoying them. We'll get JP's details up in a moment. You will get the slides. AusActive will email them out. We can email them out again afterwards as well. We'll send out some games as well for those. We'll send you out a link for some bootcamp games for those who are interested. Again, we'll send out some details about JP and his stuff as well. But like I mentioned, we've got 3 courses currently approved. JP and I are working through mobility 1 and 2, which is not far away. There's his information. Again, you'll have this on the slides. That's JP's Facebook group, JP Next Level. He has his also membership as well as his mentorship as well. Beyond that, the other thing, most of this, maybe not most of it, but a lot of it does come from the recovery strategy course that has been put together by JP as well. All about recovery, stress, how it affects us, bringing balance into your everyday life. You don't call it habit stacking, you call it habit bundling from memory.
Habit bundles. And remember, it's 30 recovery strategies, not like just get some more sleep and stretch a bit. It's 30 recovery strategies, and some of them are really very cool and easy and free. 29 of them are free.
One of the things that I love about it is you didn't. We all know sleep is super important, but sleep is one of those things that's, for some of us, we can't control. If you've got two little infants or you've got 4 little infants, you can't really control your sleep too much. So I love the fact that you do touch on sleep, but there's also a whole heap of other things there that you can do beyond sleep. It's available. It's on special for you guys with the webinar. There is the link again. Again, if you don't want to write that down, it's on the slides. Just click the link. Go to our website or whatever, hit us up, but you'll have to get the code for the discount. But if you use that there, it's on that discount there straight away. Thank you so much, everybody. If you don't, again, we'll go to the questions in the chat in a second. Check us out, Fitness Education Online Community Facebook group. Be on the lookout for some emails over the next couple of days, which will promote the course, as well as I'll make sure you get slides and bootcamp games. And we had a couple of questions. If you want to learn more on the questions will be in the slides, Sophie. Again, if you want to dive deeper into what JP does as a wealth of knowledge, as you've seen and as you know, you can hit him up via those networks that you'll see in the slides. Any other questions in chat that's happening? Now is your chance, or forever hold your peace. We'll be around anyway. We're happy to stick around and answer questions as required. But lots of thank yous. Thank you again, everybody. It's a real pleasure for us to be here and be able to present and be asked to present by AusActive, and good feedback. Maybe they can invite me back or invite JP back, and so that's about it. Any other questions coming through?
I just want to say thank you to everyone as well. Without you guys being here, we don't get to talk about this stuff. And I'm just so passionate about this, that to have other people that really want to connect with it and jump on board with that and be enthusiastic and passionate like you are, that is what fuels my own passion as well. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. And again, Sophie, you'll get emailed the slides. All right. So should ask him about the slides. Any other questions? Going once, going twice? Vagus nerve, fascinating. Yeah, it's beyond my pay grade, the vagus nerve. That sits in JP's realm.
AusActive, if you want to do one in the future on that and how that directly feeds back into the fitness world, as it were, the movement world, then I've made all those connections by reading all the stuff.
Someone spoke about scope of practice there, actually, which is a really important one. So a lot of this stuff in the recovery, let's just touch on that because it is an important one, and we do touch on it in the actual course about scope of practice because it is an important element. Asking someone how they slept, let's go back to those questions, right? Asking someone how they slept, and if they don't have, let's say, an excuse like infants, it might be as simple as, hey, when was the last time you drank coffee? Hey, what's your bedtime routine? What are you eating before you go to bed? Is there an issue? I think they're all those questions there, for example, completely in scope of practice. Obviously, we're not diagnosing things. We're not trying to treat things. Recovery could be getting out, playing a game, smiling, laughing, happy, outside in the sun. All right, and that's a whole heap of strategy. In a group, having fun, smiling, outside on the grass with the horizon. All of that stuff is good for our body, good for our brains. That is all a part of recovery, and that's what the course is a lot about. So it is all well and truly within scope. It's not stuff outside of scope of practice, because that is an important issue, and we're aware of that as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, perfect, good. Thank you. Any last questions coming in? Thank you very much, everybody. I suppose, Luke, you probably come back, I suppose, if there's no other questions.
Yep. Still here. Thanks, boy. That was terrific. I can see a lot of comments were flooding in throughout with praise. So definitely some opportunities for future webinars, I think, as well, with a bit of feedback that we got that I can see come through. So thanks everyone for popping in your feedback, and thanks for attending today. Anything to close off?
One Q&A there on menopause. I don't know whether that sits in your area, JP. Again, we actually have a specific course on that as well via Mish, the great Mish Wright. So I don't know, JP, whether you've got an answer to that, but
is that in the Q&A?
Yes. How would you help a client going through menopause in regards to assisting them strengthening themselves and joint complications?
Yeah, I mean, it is completely one in a separate topic. That's a long answer and a slightly off topic type of answer. But yeah, the menopause zone is a completely different area to ladies that still actually menstruation phase. Also, someone asked earlier, how does menstruation affect, some of these tests? Well, absolutely it does, because at different points in the cycle, in that monthly cycle, you are stronger or not than other points because of the hormonal balances in your system. You get into menopause, it gets more complicated, because all the rules that you had through, what we call, inverted commas, childbearing years, when you hit menopause, some of those, the whole rule book goes out the window. And then you start with an entirely new set of rules. And what a lot of people don't do when they get to there is they just go harder with the stuff that worked before menopause, which is actually the opposite of what you need to do. So I don't want to we won't go down on that and I would actually get Mish in to do an entire webinar on that whole area. So great question. It's just that I would get someone better qualified with enough time to answer that adequately.
Yeah, we have actually had Mish in previously to sort of touch on the topic as well. So if anyone wants to look at that webinar, just head to our YouTube channel as well. If you don't know how to access that, just send us an email and we'll shoot you through the link. But yeah, just look through all the past webinars are on there, so you can have a look at Mish's one.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, Luke, thank you very much. Everyone, Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure. JP, great to present with you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Just presenting in general. I love this stuff. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.